Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please know that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmaster official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video or audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM, Andrew Byrne.
Welcome, everyone. Today's theme, festive, to keep us all happy, is superheroes. And as you look around the screen, you can see that some people have done this, such as Lou Brown. He brought in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Others have brought in individual characters, and Graham has some characters on his shirt. Jim has a whole bunch of the DC Universe characters. So our theme for the day is superhero, and I'll let the grammarian introduce what the word of the day is. I'm going to turn it back over to the rest of the group, and Jim is our Toastmaster of the day. The only thing I wanted to say, and we said this before, is next week through the holidays, we are not meeting, and everyone's going to get an email asking whether they want to also be off on January 2nd or not. And then the board meeting will be on Sunday, June 8th at 7 p.m. There's a Sunday. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Ms. President. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and welcome. As our president mentioned, our theme is superheroes. And yes, I also appreciate all of those awesome backgrounds, T-shirts that folks are wearing. Amazing. I didn't get a good look at yours, Graham. I thought maybe it was. There we go. Okay, I'm not sure who those are. What superheroes? I don't think it's Marvel or DC, but hey, it could be some new Australian universe that none of us have heard of.
They're alternate universe Marvel.
Ah, got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a huge superhero fan, and most of my knowledge of superheroes goes back to like the 80s. So, okay, I'm sorry. You know what, Mr. President, I was going to ask you, is that your digital trading card that you're displaying on your background there? That's amazing. You just put your head on that body and there you go. You got your own NFT. You can make $4.5 million yourself if you just sell 45,000 of those babies for $99 each. Okay, we are going to begin the initial portion of our meeting, which is our tip of the day. And our tip master is Toastmaster Sunny Fridge. Keep in mind, whoever our timer is, I can't see off the top of my head, that her tip of the day will be 3 to 5 minutes. Take it away, Sunny.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. Fellow Toastmasters, raise your hand if you've ever been discouraged while chasing a dream. Have you? We all can't be superheroes. And when it comes to achieving goals and dreams, sometimes I've found that life doesn't always turn out the way you expected. And when the results you hope for don't manifest themselves, it can sometimes leave you questioning your self-worth and abilities, no matter where you are in your leadership journey and in your dream journey. It's so easy to fall into a trap of discouragement. I've been there. What I know for sure is whenever you're down in the dumps, especially during this holiday season, it's important that you take action to start feeling better about yourself, because dwelling on the negative and remaining in a depressed state is unhealthy. After a while, you feel like you're moving backward instead of forward. and it makes it challenging to get back to a positive mindset. It makes it challenging to become the next best version of yourself, that superhero in you where you can release your superpowers. So today I'd like to share 3 tips to help you rise from discouragement and shine bright in the world. Tip number 1, to rise up from discouragement, reflect on past successes. If you're honest with yourself, you'll begin to realize that you have probably enjoyed many successes in the past. So reflect on how great you felt when you earned something that you worked extremely hard for. Think about the impact you've had on your peers when you accomplished something that inspires them to accomplish something as well. Tip number 2, to rise up from discouragement. Know that you are uniquely created. Scripture tells us we are fearfully and wonderfully made. You all have a special blend of gifts, talents, abilities, personality, and you all are superheroes in your own way because you have a purpose that is different from everyone else on the planet. Dr. Seuss was right when he said, "Today you are you." That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. And that's a wonderful thing because since you're the only person like you around, why not focus on your unique abilities and put those to work to evoke positive change in your life? Setting your new ideas in motion will go a long way toward restoring your self-confidence. It was Joe Namath who said, when you have self-confidence, you can have fun. And when you have fun, you can do amazing things. Tip number 3, to rise up from discouragement, make someone else feel special. Over the years, I've found making a positive impact on someone else's life is one of the most empowering and uplifting things you can have. In the past 2 months, I've traveled to North Carolina to provide caregiving for my parents. While there in October, I visited an elderly cousin, and she was in a nursing home. In fact, it was exactly 1 year that she had been there. And she really appreciated each time I came by because she didn't have too many visitors. You know what? It made me feel good too. So try volunteering at a local agency because sometimes so many people need a caring touch, especially in this new normal, and taking the opportunity to encourage them will enable you to feel that much more worthy. In fact, you may sometimes forget about your own hardships for a while because you're so focused on helping someone else overcome theirs. Today, I've shared 3 tips to rise up from discouragement. Reflect on past successes. Know that you are uniquely created, and make someone else feel special. Marianne Williamson said, "We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. So as you rise up from discouragement, make sure you shine. Your future self will thank you." Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Sonny. Great speech. I really enjoyed it. And I really love how you weaved in the theme of the meeting in there. So awesome job. Yes, we all have a superpower. Just need to use it. Thank you again. I see we do not have any non-Toastmaster guests, so I will dispense with explaining more about how our club meetings work. We're going to dive right into the first segment of the meeting, the prepared speeches. In order for me to run that first segment, I have helpers. I'll call upon each of our helpers and ask them to explain a little bit about what their role is. Let's start with our timer, our club president, Toastmaster Byrne.
Thank you very much, Lou. Usually our speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. If this is going longer or shorter, please let me know and I'll take that into account. But normally our projects are 5 to 7 minutes. Green is at 5, yellow is at 6, and red is at 7. You have 30 seconds of grace after that. We also time all segments of the meetings, and during the other segments, table topics and evaluations, I'll let you know the timing requirements of that. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Our counter, Toastmaster Antoinette Trim. Share with us what your role is.
Sure. I am our counter here to detect filler words, and at the end of the meeting, or rather when I'm called to do so, I will do it with a hearty heart. So back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Trim. Our next role is our grammarian, who I see is extremely well prepared because it looks like you have 2 video thumbnails out there. Please share with us what your role is as grammarian.
As grammarian, it will be my job to note notable words and phrases and the use of the English language and how we can go about improving it for future meetings. It is also my job to introduce the word of the day. The word of the day today is putative. It's an adjective. The definition: generally believed, supposed, or assumed to be something. Used in a sentence, the putative reason for their dismissal was poor job performance. I look forward to all of us utilizing the word of the day in our speeches. And if you forget, just look for the second guess one. It's there for the meeting. Back to you, our Toastmaster.
Thank you, Joni. Appreciate that. The putative reason why our club is so amazing is because we have such amazing Toastmasters in our club. Moving on to the next role, our watcher. David Carr, please share with us your role as watcher.
Yes, the putative reason for having a watcher is so that you have a visual equivalent of the grammarian who can account for good and maybe could be improved uses of the visual stage of your body language, whatever you fit within this box, as well as your use of the box itself. I will also be the vote counter for today, and I'll be dropping links in the chat that you can use to vote. And it looks like we might have a guest here. Guests are welcome to vote as well.
Thank you. So it looks like you covered both roles there. Thank you, sir. My other favorite Toastmaster Carr will be our chat monitor, Toastmaster Deborah Carr. Share with us what your role as chat monitor is.
As chat monitor, I am going to keep an eye on the chat and see what's going on, because links get dropped in there so I can remind you, and I can also back up to Lou if there's any questions that he might need to respond to. That's it. That's what I'm going to be doing, and let's see what goes on in the chat tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. And that is the role of the roster of supporting helpers. Thank you all. Appreciate that. We will now dive into our prepared speeches. We have 2 speakers tonight. If I'm wrong in that, someone correct me. Our first speaker is Toastmaster Andriy Smolenko. He will be speaking from the Engaging Humor Path, Mastering Fundamentals, Level 1, Evaluation and Feedback. And this is the first of his 2 speeches. Andrei's time is 5 to 7 minutes. Have you ever heard of speed dating? If not, Andriy Smolenko is going to explain to you what it is and why it should be on your bucket list. Please welcome Toastmaster Smolenko with Is Speed Dating on Your Bucket List?
It was a very cold, miserable, rainy day in Manchester. About 3 years ago, right before COVID pandemic, I stood dressed up nicely, all warm up, being really, really worried about to get into that new trendy, fashionable place in downtown Manchester. I was going for speed dating, first time in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow online presenters, have you ever heard of speed dating? Have you ever tried speed dating in your life? Well, put it simply, speed dating is a little bit like networking, but with one purpose: to meet your match, to find a woman or a man of your dreams who would you spend the rest of your life with. Simple, you would say it. I would say so too. Let's look at the official definition of speed dating, which is a formalized matchmaking process which has the purpose of encouraging eligible singles to meet large numbers of new potential partners in a very short period of time. Well, how the process works, in my view, is really interesting question. Let's put it simple. When you get into the room full of singles, exactly the same as you are. Singles normally pre-matched by organizers according to their age bracket. I was lucky, my age bracket was just below 40. Normally, we have the same number of men and women, 10 men and 10 women. Ladies are sitting individually at all tables by themselves. Men would sit next to them with a drink, and then when the organizer bang the clock, you start chatting with each other between 3 to 8 minutes. In my case, it was 5. So this is where Toastmasters came really, really handy. I realized the power of all those years learning how to speak within 5 to 7 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, the organizer bongs the gong again, the men stand up and move to the next lady. But before you do that, you would make a little note on your list saying you like her or you don't. At the end of the meeting, when organizers get those little pieces of papers, then they would tell everyone if you had a match or not, but not on the day, only the next morning. It's all done just to keep the meeting live and going. Well, simple. In a way, it's like really one of those networking events that we attend. Let me take you back in a little bit into the history of this. The history of speed dating is backdated to the 19th century, to the tradition that some states in the United States had called New Year's calling. New Year's calling simple where single ladies on the 1st of January would gather together in respectful houses and invite some bachelors. Some of them they knew, some of them they didn't. They all get together for about 15 minutes and then they would leave. Interesting tradition, isn't it? Well, according to the research that we have by the New York Times, for example, speed dating is very effective. It's about 3 to 4 people can find match out of 10. At the same time, BBC program, The Science of Love, suggests that it's enough for us as human beings to find connection within 1.5 minutes to 4 minutes. Research is there. So we have a history there as well. Well, my experience, I really, really enjoyed it. I felt excited and exhilarated, especially that 2 women that I liked and I put a match on, they liked me back. And I found out about that the morning after. I was excited. I went on a date, we had a really good time, but it didn't go that far. At the same time, a friend of mine that I've known for years went on his first ever speed dating event and he met his future wife. They have been married for 17 years now. They have 3 children. So when I heard that inspiring story from him, I decided to try again and again and again. And I've tried a number of times. However, perhaps this is not my time yet. Well, ladies and gentlemen, despite my experience thinking about that networking event for the speed dating, is speed dating on your bucket list? If not, it should be there, right now. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you very much, Andriy. Wonderful speech. I'm a borderline boomer, so anything that involves speed kind of doesn't work well with me. I'm kind of slowing down in my elder years here. Thank you, sir, though. Appreciate that speech. Wonderful. Our second speaker is one of our newer members, Toastmaster Isabel Kadoorie. She will be giving a speech from the Presentation Mastery Path. Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals. This is her icebreaker, Mr. Timer, 4 to 6 minutes. Isabel Kadoorie has been a Toastmaster for 9 years. This is her icebreaker speech for Presentation Mastery Level 1. She will talk about her hobby, gardening. Please welcome Toastmaster Isabel Kadoorie with gardening.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. Raise your hand if you ever planted fruits or vegetables. I saw many hands. Harvesting from your own garden is very rewarding. I live in Maryland, where we have 4 seasons. Gardening has been my hobby for 18 years. Today, I will share my experience in gardening and 3 lessons to become a good gardener. The first lesson is to choose suitable crops. This is easy to understand. Our local climate and our garden conditions call for different crops. But the reality is often trickier than we might have thought. I learned my lesson the hard way. I love blueberries, and I have a fenced yard, which seems to be ideal for blueberries. About 15 years ago, I planted 20 blueberry bushes in my backyard. In the first 2 years, the blueberry bush grew nicely and started producing berries in the 3rd year. That's the time I realized a big problem. My garden was very close to the forest. Many critters live in the woods. Berry-loving birds, squirrels, chipmunks, raccoons, and rabbits. When I first noticed them, I thought it's okay. I could generously share half of the harvest with them. But the berry thieves took all my berries. Every day I saw many half-ripe berries and hoped to pick them tomorrow when they turned blue. The next morning, they were all gone. Only the green, unripe berries left. I tried to scare these rascals away using scarecrows, predator scents, but failed. Then I tried nettings. I tried to use net to stop them, but it only worked with some birds. The really smart birds still find their ways to get inside the netting. And it was completely useless against chipmunks. They dug holes and they just start living inside the net. The netting caused more inconvenience to me than to the berry thieves. I fought against these rascals for 3 years. It was a losing battle every year. Eventually, I conceded. I gave up blueberries and tried different crops. Tomatoes, green beans, cucumbers, lettuce, kales, onions, and pepper. Some years I got a big harvest with little effort, and other years, not so good. Here's the second lesson I learned from gardening. Timing is so critical in agriculture. We need to sow the seeds in the right season. For example, if we sow the lettuce seeds too late, they may not germinate at all because the weather gets too hot. And we also need to fertilize plants at the right time. To have good produce throughout the year, we need to apply base fertilizer before planting. It's inexpensive to buy a big load of horse manure and mix them into the garden soil in the early spring. But it takes like about half days of hard labor. So for some years, I got lazy and skipped it. Then the crops just become malnourished. I had to fertilize them after planting. It became more expensive and took a lot more time, but still the crops didn't grow as well. Then when that happens, for the remainder of the year, I was constantly reminded to do the right thing at the right time. Furthermore, to be successful, sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone. The third lesson I learned from gardening is to kill worms. I love leafy greens. Leafy green plants attract caterpillars. I didn't want to spray pesticides, so I had to hand pick the worms. Have you ever picked a worm? It's gross. I'm afraid of worms. I used to leave the worms alone, then they quickly destroy the leafy greens. So I decided to get out of my comfort zone and kill the worms. After killing hundreds and thousands of worms, every time I do it, I still feel I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Do you feel the same way every time you speak in public? To some of us who are naturally shy, this is the kind of challenge we take in order to become better speakers. Today, I shared 3 lessons for successful gardening. First, choose suitable crops. Second, do the right thing at the right time. Third, get out of your comfort zone and kill the worms. I hope these lessons will make you a better gardener, so you can enjoy the fruits and vegetables of your labor. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Isabel. Wonderful speech. I wish I had a knack for gardening. I do have a green thumb, but that's only because I had avocado dip for dinner. Okay, that concludes the prepared speech segment of our meeting. Mr. Timer, I see you have started posting times in the chat. Please verbally confirm if both of our speakers qualified or not.
They both did. Speaker number 1 was a regular project, which is a 5 to 7 minute project, and speaker number 2 was an icebreaker, which is a 4 to 6 minute project, and she did 5 minutes and 39 seconds, which is within the parameter. Our other speaker also met their requirement.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Please see the chat for the vote counting link for best speaker if it is not already posted there. Click there and vote for your favorite speaker. The putative reason why it may be difficult to judge is because we had just 2 incredible speakers. I'm trying to get as much credit for that word in the day in here as I can. Thanks again, everyone. We are now going to move to the second segment of our meeting, the table topic segment. This will be hosted by our Sergeant at Arms, Carolina Ramirez. Take it away, Carolina.
Thank you very much, Lou. Now it's time for everyone to speak. And the first question, you have between 1 and 2 minutes. So pay attention to our timer, Andy. And the first question is, do you know any real superhero in your life? Can you tell me why do you consider that she or he is a superhero? And I have one question as well. Jim, do you have a role today, or you are evaluating, or Evie is evaluating?
Evie is evaluating. No.
So this question is for you, Jim.
I do have a role. I'm not sure what it is, but.
Table topics speaker is your role.
Oh, okay.
For the first question.
Yeah,
do you want
I'm
me
waiting.
to repeat the question? Okay. Do
Yes,
you know
please.
do you know any real superhero in your life? Can you tell me why do you consider she or he is a superhero?
That was the question. All right. Thank you,
Yes.
Madam Topics Master. I was so thrown by trying to figure out what role I had that I completely lost track of what your question was. Do I have any superheroes in my life? This is going to sound a little immodest. This is not the answer that I would have given for most of my life. But most recently, I have come to regard myself as my own superhero. I won't bother telling you about all the nemesis, I don't know, bad guys that I've been facing. I won't tell you about the kryptonite that seems to be cluttering itself all around me. I won't go into those things. Let's just simply say that I get out of bed every morning. I come to online presenters quite happily. I go through the day. I achieve some remarkable things. Sometimes they're tiny little things. Well, for example, just heard about Isabel talked about the power of gardening. I think she's a superhero for producing those blueberries against uncountable obstacles like chipmunks and birds and so on like that. She's a superhero. She probably doesn't feel that way, but I think she is. I think every one of us are superheroes. Sonny already has the costume, but everybody is their own superhero. And the only difference is I have recently come to recognize that I am a superhero. I'm it. I am the super person and I'm magnificent. I hate to sound immodest that way, but I'm good. That's it. Back to you, Madam Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Jim. You are a super speaker. Next question. This is a classic. What superpower would you like to have? And this question goes to our guest today, DTM5, Tracy Baker, Ohio, US. Hello, how are you?
I am great because I was of the putative belief that I could go talk to any single woman I wanted to. I went to the speed dating round, Miss Evie, Miss Sarah, and I said to myself, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single. Now put your hands up, oh. And I looked around the room and I saw Carolina and I saw Sunny. Not these on the screen, but different ones with the same name for any HR purposes. And I said to myself, wow, I'm gonna go over here and try to figure out what kind of gift I can give some of these ladies in this speed dating round. But then I realized, like somebody else said, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm married. But you know what? I can still go talk to the young ladies because it's a speed dating round. What would I do with my superpower? My superpower would be to take that fear I used to have. Oh my gosh. Whenever it was time to talk to a young lady when I was in college, oh no. But as soon as I joined Toastmasters, Deborah Carr, Antoine Trim, Sarah Edahin, I said to myself, I gotta build up some courage and I gotta shake it off. That fear. There's nothing in my brain. That's okay. I had to shake it off. And when I shook it off, I said to myself, the next time I see a young lady at the club, I'm going to turn my superpower from fear into power. And no longer will I be scrawny man, I'm going to be Superman. Now I'm a 6'1", 260 pound, pure muscle chocolate man with powerful energy, powerful muscles. But when it comes to talking to girls, oh my gosh. But the next time I went to the speed dating round, I saw a beautiful Sunny and I saw beautiful Carolina. Not these again. So if anybody's upset, it's not my fault. But this time, instead of being scared, I found my superpower way down the side. I turned my Christmas hat on and I started to say to myself, let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. Oh my goodness gracious. My superpowers, they shine through because I was not afraid to use my voice. My voice, even with single ladies, even with married ladies, even with doctors, even with table topics masters is my superpower. Table topics master.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I think that you would be a success in speed dates. Next question. I remember superheroes when I was a child. I remember about, for instance, Ninja Turtles. And this question says, what was your favorite superhero when you were a child? And how have superheroes changed over the years? And this question goes to Carl Wash.
Well, first of all, I didn't know Tracy when I was a child, but he certainly would have been one of my superheroes. I would like to have his restraint. I would like to have his ability to hold it back and just give it straight. I love that about Tracy. But my real superhero, oddly enough, this is very strange. I saw Lawrence of Arabia when I was 7 years old, and now that was it. Lawrence of Arabia. I saw him as a superhero. And then I graduated into comic books. And I think Spider-Man was, I think Spider-Man was my favorite. And I went through that for several years, but then I began getting into the arts and into the performing arts. And for a while there, Rudolf Nureyev was a superhero to me. And if you ever saw him in his prime, and I got to see him many times in London, he was a superhero. He could do things no human is supposed to do. He was just built differently. He could hang in the air. I don't know how, but he was able to do it. And he was just brilliant. But as time went on, my superhero changed into something I never expected. And that was my father. You know, it's funny how the older we get, the smarter our parents are. And the life that he went through, being wiped out, being a very wealthy child in Pittsburgh, and his family was wiped out by the Great Depression and the stock market crash, moving to Los Angeles, no hot running water, cardboard in his shoes. I mean, the whole story. And a man who became successful, raised a family, sent all his kids to all the education that they ever wanted. That was a superhero. And he remains so. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Carl. Nice answer. Antoinette, do you prefer dark superheroes like Batman or purely good superheroes like Superman? Why?
Thank you, Table Topics Master, for that interesting question. Sorry to say, none of them. I grew up in the era of Wonder Woman, Diane. My second name is Diana. Some people say Diane, some people say Diane. And I grew up with the fantasy of seeing Wonder Woman change from her natural clothes into the uniform that she has. And in those days, as female, we always dream of having a pear-shaped body. And Wonder Woman was that for all of us. And she was very kind. You never saw her, but to me, as far as my memory serves me, never saw her angry or anything. And I'm speaking to you now, and I'm remembering the lasso that you used to have to rein people in. And what I like about her in respect to reining people in, it will remind me of my life today, in which sometimes you do have to rein things in when things are getting away from you in terms of maybe your finances, possibly would be just keep spending, 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 and you have to stop. You cannot continue like that. You will be bankrupt. And in that way, I'm able to rein my finances in. So I'm linking now Wonder Woman with her lasso and reining people into my personal life, whereby I have to rein certain things in, of which finance is one of them. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day. Sorry, Topics Master.
Thank you, Antoinette. And this is the last question, very easy and complex at the same time. Who is your favorite superhero and why? And this question goes to Graham Kearns.
Madam Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters guests, I could say that my favorite superhero was my father because, like others here, the influence that he's had on my life has been amazing. I could say that my favorite superhero was Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel, that is the Carol Danvers version of Captain Marvel, because these are strong, intelligent women who take no nonsense from people. Sorry, I had to think about how I was going to word that. But to me, my favorite superhero was Thor, the God of Thunder, as reflected by Marvel Comics compared to Marvel movies. See, what you don't know about Thor is that in the original Marvel Comics, Thor was, of course, the God of Thunder, who was sent to Earth. And he lost his mighty hammer, Mjolnir. And there was a human, a crippled human, who picked up that hammer and became the avatar for Thor, the God of Thunder. And so Thor was always this dichotomy between a frail and sometimes quite fearful human and this God of Thunder who had enormous powers and the ability to do just about anything. And I always wondered, if I were to be in the position where I were to pick up Mjolnir and have all of these amazing powers, would I keep my humanity, keep my hopefully grounded view of the world, or would I become an arrogant superhero? And it raised a whole lot of really interesting questions to me as a boy and a young teen. So if I had to pick a favorite superhero, it would be Thor, but Thor of the comic books, not Thor of the Marvel movies. Madam Topics Master, yes.
Thank you very much, Graham. My favorite superhero is Aquaman because he's so handsome. Mr. Timer, everyone is qualified?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's vote for your favorite table topic speaker of the evening, or maybe the morning, maybe the afternoon, I'm not sure, depending on where you are. Mr. Toastmaster of the day, back to you.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Wonderful Toastmaster topics segment, right in line with the theme of the meeting. Awesome job. Okay, we're going to move right into the third and final portion of our meeting, the evaluation segment, which will be hosted by Toastmaster Sarah Edian. Take it away, Sarah. Oh, sorry, don't forget to vote for your favorite topics person via the link in the chat.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lou, and good evening again to everybody. We're at the special part of the meeting where we get evaluated. Being a part of Toastmasters, you know how important it is to get that critique that helps you go to the next level. We have some helpers tonight to help with the evaluation. And we're going to call on our, let's see which one I'm going to do first. The watcher. I'm going to call on the watcher.
Oh, should we leave those?
Oh, we didn't do our
those open?
evaluators.
We usually do
evaluators.
that after the evaluation, so.
Excuse me,
We
Yep,
usually
excuse
the
me.
evaluators first.
after the
Okay,
evaluation.
yes. Okay, our evaluators, and tonight our evaluating Andri's speech was Graham Carnes. Please welcome Graham.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you, everybody, and particularly thank you, Andriy, for this presentation. This speech, this project doesn't have a specific objective in the way that many Pathways projects do. It is just a speech that should be a speech on any topic that is chosen. But this speech is from the engaging humour path, and so I will be looking specifically at the use of humour during this presentation, and I will be giving Andriy some specific objectives for when he does this speech or a similar speech again, because that's the purpose of this speech, for him to get feedback and to put that into play for his next project. So let me begin with the things that I really, really liked about Andriy's presentation, and I've noticed this every time Andriy speaks. He uses the technology really well. The transitions in and out of the slides during Andriy's presentation tonight were a really good example to all of us as online presenters on how to use the technology so that it's not intrusive, that it adds value to what's being said. Well done on that. Also, there was some really nice, gentle humor. Now, this is a engaging humor path, but engaging humor does not necessarily mean rollicking, rolling on the floor, laughing. It means showing humor, making us feel warmth. And there was some really nice, gentle humor. For example, when he said, "This is where Toastmasters came in. I had to do this all within a time." Yeah, I thought that was really nicely done. There were a few things that I would suggest for Andriy specifically for the next presentation, and one of them is that he appeared at times to be reading. And I understand that's difficult in this environment, because even if you're not reading, if you glance down at the screen to see if you're getting the reaction from the audience, it looks like you're reading. So try to work a way around that. And the other thing is that there was one slide that simply wasn't needed, the one that talked about the New York Times and the BBC's Science of Love. We didn't need a slide for those, because all Andriy needed to do was tell us that this is being backed up by research that I have found here and here. In terms of structure, I thought it was a really well presented speech, but I would suggest creating, if you like, a framing device for the entire presentation. For example, you could talk about what should be on your bucket list, and then say one of the things you may not have thought about putting on your bucket list was speed dating. Tell us about speed dating, your experiences, and then, so when you're creating your bucket list, don't take speed dating off, put it on there. So that would give it a framing device. Or you could start in the middle of one of those dates that didn't go as well, and then throw us back to how you got involved in this speed dating, and then take us forward to saying, I intend to continue to speed date, and I suggest that you do the same, so that it gives it a framing device that holds the speech together. But I've got to say, I love the use of space. I thought the use of empathy and of gentle humor in Andriy's speech was commendable. And I know that you often hear Toastmasters say, I'm looking forward to your next speech, but I am genuinely looking forward to Andriy's next speech to see if he's put into practice some of the things that I've suggested, because that wouldn't take this from being a great speech to an out of sight one. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Graham. Our next evaluator is Evie, and Evie is evaluating Isabel Kadoorie. Please welcome Evie.
Hello, Toastmasters, General Evaluator, Toastmaster, valued guest, and Isabel. One of my favorite specific things to do in Toastmasters is evaluate an icebreaker. Sorry about a frog in my throat, because it's absolutely putatively just about the warmest, most personal speech you can possibly give in a club. And this is an advanced club where all of us have some prior experience or skill. So while it might not be the experience of encouraging a tiny shoot out of the ground in early spring, it's still like a special homegrown treat. And I hope to shower appreciation and encouragement on you in this icebreaker evaluation, because I'll be honest, I really had to kind of dig to find criticisms of your speech. Isabel, you started perfectly. You immediately had audience interaction. Raise your hand if you've ever, you immediately made yourself relatable, because all of us, almost all of us, had done that, had that experience of gardening. You established credibility. You talked about how long you've been doing this, and you said you'd share your story and share 3 lessons, which immediately helped the audience latch onto a structure for your speech. Your first lesson: choose the right crop. I want to take a little bit of water. I was a little bit sick last week. First lesson: choose the right crop. You talked about that for a little while first, and then you added a personal story. And here's where I have my little pruning nitpick. Maybe a little bit of story first to kind of sweep us in. You know, when you look up recipes online and they always start with a story, like when you're trying to find a recipe, that's terrible. You don't want to do that. But in a Toastmaster speech, it's perfect. And you talked about, the berry thief. That was so funny. You had a lot of humorous little moments. And back to the nitpicking, your lesson 2, timing is critical. I would have loved to hear a story parallel to that about doing the right thing at the right time in your own life at that time. And lesson 3 is kind of where you brought it back in. Have you ever picked a worm and it was about getting out of your comfort zone? That's perfect. Oh man, you brought that parallel back. You brought it back to your life and brought it to us, like made it relatable to us yet again, because here we are in Toastmasters, completely getting out of our comfort zone as much as we can. That's what it's all about, right? And having an icebreaker about that is just wonderful. So not only are your technical skills already quite good, Isabel, but your mind is clearly fertile ground for growing many exceptional speeches in the future, and I can't wait to hear them. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Evie. I'd like to ask the timer, did both of our evaluators have the right time? Or within
Yes,
time?
they did.
Excellent. So please take this opportunity to go to chat and vote for Evie or Graham, and one of them will be the best evaluator for this evening. So now I'm going to call on our helpers that we had helping throughout the meeting. First, I'm going to call on the chat. Please welcome chat. Jim Barber.
Deborah Carr.
Actually, we switched to Deborah. Yeah.
You switched it to Deborah Carr? Sorry. Okay, please welcome Deborah as chat. Oh, I see it on her thing. Chat monitor, Deborah Carr.
Well, we switched quite a few times. There was a lot of balls in the air earlier today. The chat overall was rather quiet. There wasn't a lot of chat going on, but however, there was a couple good things that they called Evie the pun queen, with hers. I mean, there's some cute stuff in there, so you can go in and review if you want. I didn't see anything that needs to be actually saved this time, as we have had in the past. But and with Graham, when he was explaining a couple things during his question, it was, who was it? I lost it there on the chat. Anyway, I think it was Louis just kept saying, say it, Graham, say it. Anyway, it was just light and easygoing and nice tonight, and which kind of settled all the balls in the air that for deciding who was actually going to be chat monitor. That's it.
Thank you. Next is our watcher, and our watcher is David Carr.
Thank you. Graham already covered this somewhat, but Andriy, I was impressed by the fact that you used visual effects, but you didn't overuse them. In other words, I think a lot of times we almost sort of hide behind our slides. You not only use things in the background, or at one point there was a slide with the definition of what speed dating was that came up in the foreground, but you put them on the screen just for a few seconds. And then there was a photo of people doing speed dating. Again, just for a few seconds, just as a punctuation. When we're dealing with a good and powerful speaker, their face is the best special effect. And so letting us see your face, let us see your expressions is a wonderful thing. Isabel, I enjoyed the use of the blueberry bush in the background, also the steaming pile of horse manure. I was a little bit worried that might stay on the screen too long. Maybe you wouldn't want to leave that up through the whole end of the speech. So I was relieved when it changed to somewhat worm-eaten leafy greens, which I suppose isn't the most appetizing thing, but it's probably better than horse manure. And also use of simple things like holding up 3 fingers to number 3. I mean, it's so simple, but it actually does sort of reinforce a point. And your eye contact was maybe not perfect, but it was very good. People in this club have been lectured about this a billion times, but one of the tricky things about Zoom is that you tend to look at an individual speaker's image on the screen, and when you're looking at the screen, you're not looking at the camera. So, but I think you made enough occasional eye contact with the camera that it was quite good. And Tracy Baker, what can you say? I mean, it was a whole performance that he had ready to go, which included at one point him getting up. So he started out sitting. He gave us his facial expressions as well as the expressiveness of his voice, but then he was able to stand up without stepping out of the frame of the camera, step up and step back in a way that was quite effective as well to kind of show himself dancing. I think that's all I got.
Thank you, Dr. David. Next is our grammarian, Joni. He'll be giving us how we did on the word of the day, and as well as our ahs and ums. Please welcome Joni.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Let me start by saying, we don't say DTM, we say Distinguished Toastmaster. It's a title that we all work for very hard. And in case we have persons who are present using the acronym, they may not know what a DTM is. So it's always advisable to state Distinguished Toastmaster. For Isabel, you said who are natural shy. It's actually who are naturally shy. For Antoinette, you stated I am linking. My suggestion would be you could say the connection I made or the parallel I drew from both circumstances. One of my notable phrases was from Tracy. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Everybody who is a part of the TikTok generation has had that stuck in their head at one point or another. And I love your use of music throughout your presentation. For Graham, the use of empathy and gentle humor. I love that turn of phrase. For Evie, we do not criticize. What we do is we provide feedback. And while I appreciate your spin on what you were trying to do, may I suggest for future reference, you can say, it was very difficult for me to find points of improvement that I could impart to you. And remember our I statement. The use of the word of the day. Putatively, Toastmasters believes, according to our Toastmaster folklore, that it should be used 5 times in the meeting. Now, counting what Carolina did before the meeting, we hit 5 because our Toastmaster of the day used it twice, Tracy used it once, and Evie used it once. However, without that, we fell short. And as such, I did a couple of missed opportunities. Andrade could have used it when stating that you can find your other half. It's putatively believed that in speed dating you can. For Isabel, when referring to any area or tips, she would impart the putative power of gardening. Carolina, you had the opportunity when posing your questions, putative superheroes for the first question, that Jim could have also used it to say he was the putative superhero. Always big up yourself. Pat yourself on the back, Jim. Your entire speech was a wonderful turn of phrase for me. And for Carolina, putative, dark or light superhero could also have been used. For that matter, anyone who was making a reference to a superhero could have used that adjective before. For Graham, specific putative objectives when you were doing your evaluation could have also been incorporated. Overall, though, excellent use of grammar, and I look forward to us using the word of the day this week to get some practice. Back to you, for general evaluation.
Thank you, Joni. At this time, we'll hear from our all counter, Antoinette Trim.
Okay, I'm here again, glad to report. Most persons didn't do the fillers. I only took note of those persons who really did or produced more than 3 filler words, and that were David Carr and Deborah Carr. But as I said before in previous meetings, this is a professional club, and we'll continue to be a professional club. Back to you, Toastmaster, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Antoinette.
Sure. Are we back to the Toastmaster of the day?
Or Sarah, if you'd like to give your evaluation of the meeting.
You're muted, Sarah.
Oh, please unmute.
I think we had a wonderful meeting tonight, starting out with our backgrounds. There were several of us who had a background that emphasized the theme of the meeting, which was superheroes. And then we went right into the tip of the day. And the tip of the day came about from Dr. Sunny, and it was about overcoming discouragement. And I think that's very much significant in this time of the year when it's holiday season and people seem to sometimes get discouraged and get depressed. And so she gave us 3 tidbits on how to just really come out of that discouragement. And then we followed on with the speakers, and they had information to give us as well. Andriy told us about speed dating. He even gave us the history of speed dating. And then with the good gardener, we had some tips on what to do to be a good gardener. Our evaluators did very well. I especially like Graham's evaluation. He started out with what I liked, and then he made some suggestions for the next time. And then he also talked about structure and framing. And I think if we use those types of critiques or feedback, I think it helped us in the future with the next time we do an evaluation or do a speech. Evie did a wonderful evaluation. She used the word of the day. And what I loved, she used shower appreciation. How for that? All in all, I think it was a wonderful meeting. We started on time. We went through it. Everybody did on time. The speakers were on time. The table topics were on time. We even had a guest table topic speaker. So back to you, Mr. Toastmaster Lou.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Wonderful evaluation segment. Folks, it was my honor and pleasure to serve as your Toastmaster. I appreciate everyone joining in with the theme of the meeting. I'm now going to pass control to our president for concluding remarks and wrapping up of the meeting. Over to you, Ms. President.
Thank you very much, Lou, for all that you've done for us during this meeting. At this point, I'd like to just point out that we did have a guest, and this is Tracy Baker from Dayton, Ohio. And he has 5 DTMs, or Distinguished Toastmaster certificates. Tracy, share with us what you've learned about this club. And I first met you last week when you visited one of my other clubs. So what I'd like to do is get your sense, because it seems like you're visiting lots of clubs all over the place. So tell us about what your impressions were about our online club.
Yes,
5
Mr.
years
President.
old.
First of all, your club here is incredible. I was referred to you, which is the case a lot of times, because I've visited over 1,000 clubs in 3 years. I was referred to you by someone in the Bahamas, and they told me I had to come and check out this club today, so I'm here. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your leadership. For this club is in great shape. I mean, goodness, great. Are you all professional speakers or what? So I really want to commend you on that. I actually am a Toastmaster, but even more, I'm an Avenger. Y'all might not notice, but I'm actually Thor. Bring me Thanos! I'm actually Thor. I have a big hammer and a shield. Don't worry about the logistics of it. But I like to tell people all the time that they're a superhero as well. Everyone has something that they can tell a story about, to share something that will help change and transform somebody's life in a very punitive way. You can absolutely positively make people believe that they have something. All you got to do is use their voice. So, Mr. President, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I will come back in the future. I've left my information in the chat box, I believe. And if I didn't, I will. And I would just say, continue to use your voice, continue to your chat monitor saying, no, you're invisible. I don't see your invisible cloak of invisibility right now. So just go ahead and put it in. I want to know why Sunny Fridge smiles the whole meeting. From the first time I came on to the end, she's been smiling. And Table Topics Master Carolina, that was very wonderful how you did that. I appreciate that. So with that being said, Mr. President, continue on, continue doing the things that you're doing. And I tell you that your superpower is making sure this club continues to grow and develop and become the Avengers of life and Toastmasters that you all are. I really appreciate you being here today. 2 wonderful speeches, great table topics, great evaluations. I'm very impressed, and I hope to come back in the future. Back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And we are very excited to have your energy at this point of the night, and we appreciate that. 1,000 clubs. That really, how many clubs a day are you going to? All right. At this point in time, I'm sure David, who is our Vice President of Education, we know that we're not meeting next week, but for the next meeting that we do have, we will have someone that needs to volunteer as a Toastmaster of the day.